The following podcast contains spoilers and explicit language. Listener discretion is advised. Welcome to Animated Anarchy, where we take a critical look at animated features of all kinds to determine the good and the bad. We are on Facebook at Animated Anarchy Cast, and you can follow us on iTunes and Stitcher. Please give us a positive review, and also we're on Twitter, AWD Twit, and A Guy Who Draws. Hi, I'm Andrew Dickman.
And I'm Mike Ruocco.
And welcome, we're Animated Anarchy.
Yay!
And this week, it's listener's choice again.
Yeah, and we've actually gotten...
We did. We got quite a few suggestions since our last podcast, which is 2 weeks ago.
Sorry about that,
we
folks.
took a little break, but it's okay. We need a break every once in a while.
Yeah.
But
We can't just always... Sometimes I just get so tired of seeing this guy.
No, we have a lot of fun here. It's just I decided to take a little break. I'm on a hiatus right now in between jobs, and you as well. So
yeah,
we just wanted to kind of do something else and
veg out a little bit.
Yeah, so we're back, and we're going to be talking about a movie from 1962, distributed by Warner Brothers, but it was animated by UPA Studios. I guess it was distributed by Warner Brothers later. We'll discuss that.
Yeah.
But the movie in question is Gay Purr-ee, which you have to, which upon saying the title, it's like you have to really understand.
The movie is about cats.
Yes. It's not. It's
there
yes.
Are cats in this movie.
There are cats in this movie, and this was suggested to us on Facebook by Anmol. Oh, please, I am so sorry if I mispronounce your name.
Great start.
Anmol Wadwani. And I really hope that I pronounced your name right. So,
and
if not, deal with it. No. Seriously, thank you so much for the suggestion. There was a lot of suggestions, and it just came down to one choice. And when you mentioned it as well, Gay Purr-ee. I keep wanting to say Gay Purr-ee.
Yeah, they put the fucking cats in a blender.
So, no, it's Gay Purr-ee. And you were talking about it a little bit earlier, and I was saying, oh, yes, that was one of the films that someone suggested that we did.
Yeah.
And what is your history with this movie? Because I remember seeing this movie a lot on TV.
I saw it on TV too.
And this was actually on like Turner Classic Movies. I remember when I was watching it on cable, but it was on Cartoon Network a lot as well.
I remember more so from Cartoon Network. They used to do the Cartoon Theater block, and I remember seeing it there, and then finally watching it. I guess again in college. And it's weird because and this is not even quite a review or what every time I mention this movie, it's been about a year or two or however long since I've seen it, and I'm usually saying, "Oh, Gay Purr-ee, you should check it out. It's a pretty interesting movie."
Yeah. And
then I realize every time I watch it that it really it's not an extravaganza of a movie. In terms of the story.
No.
I forget how, I don't even want to say boring, but it is slow. It's a very slow movie.
It feels like a very long movie.
It's an hour and a half.
It's an hour and a half, yeah, but honestly for me it feels a little longer.
Yeah.
It's just because it takes a little while for them to do anything.
Right.
But honestly the movie, if I should say anything, it's very, it's a beautiful looking film. I mean,
it's amazing.
But we say that a lot, that this movie is very beautiful looking and the animation is really well. Well, the animation isn't really that good in this movie.
There are moments where the animation. Yeah. Well, the cast of animators on this movie is really pretty. I mean, there's not really any no-name people at least in the animators, the crew.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of really great people from Disney, people from Warner Brothers, people from UPA, who that's a studio that did it.
Yeah.
And it's
because around this time, it's like they were. This is when they were not doing a whole lot of Looney Tunes anymore, right?
Yeah. What was the when they were working on it was probably the late 50s, early 60s.
Yeah.
So it was really Warner Brothers was already pretty much winding down at that point.
And of course they had like UPA already, a lot of people from animation were already going to like UPA and everything.
Yeah.
It's like, there was a lot of like scattering about,
especially in the early to mid 1950s.
Yeah, exactly. So I would think that, with this, it's like, Warner Brothers were kind of whittling down a little bit. This is only my assumption. I don't really know the truth, but it just feels like around this time, that's when kind of people were branching out to do other productions. And UPA was trying to really be conservative with their efforts on how to make cartoons, and Hanna-Barbera as well. And Warner Brothers and Disney were kind of like, they were mostly doing features, I would think. No?
Well, Warner's not so much, because Warner's never really...
No, yeah.
Until they did what? Mr. Limpet, and that was...
Oh, that was after this.
That was after
right?
this.
Yeah, okay.
No.
Yeah, and this isn't a Warner Brothers movie. This was...
It's not. It's distributed by Warner Brothers Pictures, but not... It was animated by UPA.
Right.
So, and yeah, the thing about UPA is that UPA kind of was born out of people just... We've done the funny animal cartoon. We're done. Let's just move on. And they do a lot of beautiful cartoons and a lot of beautiful work, and a lot of it doesn't hit the mark. It's actually pretty hoity-toity and kind of too smart for its own good.
Yeah.
And then there's some beautiful, but nonetheless, there's beautiful work.
And that's an
out.
interesting thing to go into, is that the biggest thing for me in this movie is not the animation, but the background.
The design, the overall artistic direction
of the movie. The overall
direction
of it is just like, it's so painterly, and it really shows like a love of just like classical painting, and they even like do a little nod about that later in the movie.
Yeah,
and we'll talk about that. So let's get into this. This is Gay. I'm gonna say it right. Gay Purr-ee.
Very good.
All right, not puree.
Yeah. Because
I've been saying that so many times this week that it's just gotten stuck in my head. Yeah. So let's start with this. It stars Judy Garland.
Mm-hmm. Probably one of her last couple movies.
Yeah.
And on a somewhat related note, I just last week, coincidentally, before we even knew we were going to do this movie, I watched an American Masters documentary about Judy Garland. It's like a 2-hour documentary about Judy Garland. And they go through her entire life and her career from, early on through Wizard of Oz, through the 40s and the 50s, A Star is Born. And then they get up to the last 10 years of her life, and they mention, she was in movies such as this, and this. Completely overlook Gay Purr-ee.
Yeah.
I assume because it's animated, but the interesting note is that because this movie is a musical.
Because that wasn't really her last movie.
It wasn't her last. It was one of her last, because I think she passed away in the late 60s or mid to late 60s.
I think so. Yeah.
But so when they did this movie is a musical. There are songs in this movie, and she recommended two of her people that she worked with on Wizard of Oz, who did the music and the lyrics for the songs in Wizard of Oz. And they did the music for this movie, and so she was singing all of their songs. And there's some songs in this movie that are very almost Wizard of Oz-esque, especially with Judy Garland singing, which is when she sings.
Oh, she's an amazing.
She's amazing.
Singer.
Like her singing is probably, it's really good. And
she has a good range too. It's like throughout this movie, you kind of have a feeling that she can do this kind of sound and then this kind of sound, which is like the very, like, I would say like very New York type of
very
voice.
Broadway, very
belting out.
You're projecting out to the crowd.
Yeah, and then like the very soft tone singing. What was that? The song about the rain.
Little drops of rain.
Little drops of rain. Yeah, which is a very nice song, a very powerful song.
Yeah,
and so she's a lovely singer. She has a very distinct voice.
Yeah, but it's weird because she plays a character in the movie named Mewsette, and the cat character that she plays is very naive, very kind of like, what do I do?
Yeah.
And then when she sings, she's got all this bravado all of a sudden. So she's like, what should I do?
Yeah.
And
she acts like a kid almost.
Yeah, very
the
naive.
Entire movie, but then it's like we have songs where it doesn't really encapsulate her personality per se. It's just kind of like this is a very nice song in between this movie, and it doesn't really carry the movie at all or the story. It's just Well, here's another song. Let's see some beautiful pictures, and then we'll move on afterward.
Yeah. But, yeah, and then, let's see, so... Because there's a pretty decent cast in this movie.
Yeah, we'll go through. Oh, and I looked up Judy Garland. Her last movie was I Could Go On Singing. And she did another movie before that after Gay Purr-ee, which was A Child Is Waiting.
So this is her third to last
This
movie.
is her third to last movie. And
when did she pass away?
She passed away like 1963.
63?
64, I believe.
So it was only 2 years after this movie came out.
No. I'm sorry. She died in 1969.
Oh, so it was
she died at very young age of 47.
Yeah,
which is very sad. No one should die that young. I guess she didn't really have anything in between that last movie, which was in 1943.
The documentary that I watched, which is very good if you can find it.
Mm-hmm. Do you know the name of it?
Judy Garland, This Is Me, or something. I don't know. I forget.
It was one of those programs where they talk about
the American Masters series of documentary.
Yeah, okay.
And it was great. She did a lot of stage shows, a lot of going on stage and singing everyone's favorite songs to crowds, and she did some TV too. Yeah. But that was pretty much the end of her singing or her major film career.
Right. And along Judy Garland, we have Robert Goulet,
who plays Jean Tom.
Jean Tom, who you will remember this name because the next character, Robespierre, voiced by Red Buttons,
will never stop
saying Jean Tom! Jean Tom! Jean Tom!
Oh,
Jean Tom!
That is probably the most annoying character.
They say it he says it at least 3 times before he actually says his line.
You should make a supercut.
No, we will go nuts. It won't be funny like the Rick and Morty supercut. It'll be like, please stop, this is annoying. It's like that supercut that you showed me of the Daffy Duck.
Yeah.
Like all the
15 minutes of just Daffy laughing. Yeah, you start to.
I was like 2 minutes into that, and how long was it? Like 10 minutes?
It's like 14 minutes.
Yeah, it's like 14 minutes, and like 2 minutes in, I went insane. I was like, if I don't stop this, I'm gonna go crazy. I'm gonna like take off my headset, and I'm gonna start jumping up and down like Daffy. I was like,
but Robespierre, the Red Buttons character, is probably the most annoying character in the movie.
Yeah,
but so that's Red Buttons. But
kind of like the kid in the last movie that we saw.
But I like Robespierre more.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like it's a cute character. Like he
bounces off of Robert Goulet's character.
Yeah, certainly. So he's a good sidekick.
Yeah,
and he's it's funny because like we don't really find out if he's like a kitten or they say he's a kitten. Like or there's a point where they say like, "Oh, hello, little kitten,"
little turtle.
Yeah, little turtle, and they make that suggestion that he is a young cat, but he drinks champagne.
Yeah.
In this and gets drunk.
Yeah. Well, they've done that before with a lot of. Dumbo.
Oh, like Dumbo. Yeah.
But
I guess it's okay. It's and I guess France. It's like
or
also
maybe he's just a small
man.
So he's like, he's a little cat.
He's a little guy.
Just a little.
I've never been so insulted. How dare you think that I would eat such a coarse, plebeian thing?
But cats like mice.
Perhaps so. But I am not a cat, I'll have you know.
You're not a cat?
Not a cat? I am a feline.
A feline?
You're a fee. What?
I think she means a female Robespierre.
And all felines really like is champagne and champignon and Champs-Élysées. And all I get on this farm is mice and milk. I feel like a cabbage that's gone to seed, like a fat duck.
All right, but it's not really suggested. He's just like a small cat.
Yeah.
He's a sidekick to
Jean Tom.
Jean Tom.
and Robert Goulet. This is his first film This is his film debut.
Yeah, because he was doing musicals before that.
Well, he sings. I don't know what he was doing before
it. Like a lounge singer, probably.
Yeah, I guess so. But most people know. I mean, at least in animation, know him as either from The Simpsons.
Jingle bells, Batman smells,
Robin laid an egg.
Thank you. Oh, I'm sorry, kid.
And then either that or I completely forgot about it. But there was the show Recess.
Oh, right.
There was the big kid, Mike. He was the big kid, and whenever he would sing, it would be Robert Goulet singing. And I remember him just going, John Jacob Jingleheimer Schmidt.
Isn't it funny that we in animation we mostly know Robert Goulet to like sing in a lounge in like a lounge voice.
Yeah.
All of these children's songs.
Yeah.
Like Jingle Bells and then John Jacob Jingleheimer Schmidt. And what an obscure reference, going back to Recess.
I never, because you know what's funny? I never watched Recess.
I had to watch it, honestly. Well, it was one of those cartoons that was before you go to school, and it was just on and nothing.
But you didn't have to watch it.
No, I didn't have to.
You chose to sit and watch it.
Yeah, but the thing is like, growing up, it's like I wanted to watch cartoons as much as possible. So if something was on that it was the worst. It was the least worst of all of the cartoons that were on before going to school each day. So I was just there watching Recess, and I was like, wow, I know way too much about this cartoon than I should. So, but yeah, Paul Frees is also in this movie.
Great voice actor.
Well, yeah, I mean, he
plays multiple characters.
He plays multiple characters in this, but like very small roles. But he's mainly known as Meowreese.
Get it?
Meowreese.
He's a cat.
See, here's the thing. It's like we have Mewsette, Jean Tomcat,
yeah,
Meowreese, Robespierre.
Which is, well,
what is there a cat pun in there somewhere?
No, I think it's just a fancy name. Okay. I don't know. I don't know the meaning. I don't know what the meaning of the name Robespierre is.
Yeah. All right. But and then we also have Hermione Gingold, or I think
Gingold.
We
don't know how to pronounce it. I'm so sorry.
But she's Madame Rubenschat. So
the fat cat.
She's
Rubenesque because it's the term Rubenesque because it was the painter Rubens who painted women, but he painted them kind of overweight and kind of meaty. Mm-hmm. So she's Rubenesque. She's Rubenschat.
Rubenschat.
Yeah.
Shut.
Madame.
Chate. It's basically the.
And that's mainly the cast. And then you have Mel Blanc does some spot.
Mel Blanc does a couple things. Joan Gardner, Julie Bennett.
Yeah.
And Murray. It says here Murray Amsterdam does the narrator voice in the beginning.
Yeah.
And
I don't know the cast outside of those five people that we mentioned.
But I mean, it's a fairly small cast, but it's good because then we have a lot of focus.
Yeah. And speaking of small cast, this movie really follows Mewsette and Jean Tom and Robespierre and Meowreese.
Yeah.
And they're in Paris. Speaking of cast, nobody's in Paris. It's empty. There's nobody there.
There's absolutely nobody except for a few background characters that they painted in there.
Yeah, or like people who are, you see them like their silhouettes in horse and buggies.
Yeah, and okay, so let's start this movie.
Yeah, let's just start.
We start off basically, narrator talks about. We should also talk about the opening credits, which are very long, but.
It gives you a good setup to the movie.
Yeah, it gives a good setup, and it's the credits and everything, and it's very very lovely paintings and shapes and everything, and then we go into the town. Oh gosh, what is the town below the south of France?
I forget.
Or Paris.
Province or
Provence. Yes, Provence. So we're in Provence, and everything is like in a Van Gogh painting
style. So it's beautiful because it's
like,
whoa, it's a Van Gogh. It's like animation on top of a Van Gogh painting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they did a very good job like emulating that.
And they do it throughout the entire movie.
Yeah. You'll notice that throughout the movie there will be different styles that will continue on with it, and it's all really inspired by a ton of painters from France and like the classic era, which is supposed to be the
Impressionist, post-Impressionist period.
Yeah, like what they call the gay 90s, the 1890s.
Or the gay 90s, I don't know if it's the turn of the century, around that time.
Yeah.
early 20th century.
Right. So it really, like, you just get these long pans over these paintings, and it's just we were talking about this. I was like, if we found one of these paintings, I would love to have them.
I'd hang one in my house.
Yeah, I would love to have these around because they're so beautiful, and it's like they really stand out on their own because without the characters on them, which really pop out, they're just really wonderful in their own right.
Yeah.
So it's lovely to look at. In terms of a movie, I think they hold on them a little bit too long because,
at least to give you enough time to look at them.
Yeah, I'm sure they were all really impressed with the work that they've done, and so they have these long pans.
That's UPA.
And
let's show off what we can do.
And to say anything, I mean, they really are really awesome paintings.
Oh, they're beautiful.
I'm. And we pan over and we see Jean Tom and Mewsette and Robespierre, and they are country cats.
Yeah.
So we start off with a song just about Mewsette, how everyone loves Mewsette, but they're really the only people around that sing.
Yeah.
We start off with
pitching woo to Mewsette.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you have this beautiful song, great voices, and then suddenly...
And they're very low. You notice they're very close.
Yeah, and then suddenly you're like, oh, how nice. And then you hear, Jean Tom! And then it just begins the whole...
Jean Tom! Jean Tom!
And it just begins... And then you find out that Jean Tom is a...
Master
mouser. And great how they make him, like... He makes a viewfinder, like a gun sight in his eye.
Yeah, like a crosshair.
Yeah, and his tail
with his whiskers. And
his tail goes off like a wick of a cannon, and he
just shoots off
like a lightning bolt and catches a mouse.
It's basically the setup that he is a master mouser and he can catch a mouse, but he wants to give the mouse to Mewsette, who finds it disgusting.
Yeah.
She's like, why would I ever want to have such a disgusting thing?
I guess normally she would, but I guess now that she's heard about Paris...
Oh, yes, that's right. We also go to this inside the house where are probably only two human characters, or one of the only human characters, and the only times they actually show them are inside discussing with each other about Paris. I guess the sister of the country girl has come and visited. It's like, oh, how could you live in such a garish place? In Paris, you could have champagne and champois and other champol chibolets.
If you listeners can only see how, while Andrew is saying this, he's flaunting and turning and twisting, and his hands are up.
Well, that's how she was. She was like, her arms were very
you are like a cabbage.
You are a fat duck.
Yeah, a fat duck. And so Mewsette hears all this, and she's like awestruck.
She starts getting interested.
And
in
then
Paris.
we introduce a song, and which begins what the song sequences are going to be like in this movie, where the movie just stops. And then you go into this fantasy, which is a beautifully done, beautiful fantasy.
Yeah.
But it doesn't go anywhere.
No, it doesn't add to the story at all. It's just kind of like, okay, stop the movie.
Yeah.
Let's go to a song.
I think there was a time when, because people knew Disney is doing these big musical animated films, and some of them, I guess, didn't just quite understand that the reason why Disney did songs was to use it in lieu of exposition. So you're in an interesting way pushing the story along. Well, in many movies that other animated movies that people did, especially this movie, it's very
That happened a lot with a lot of animated movies outside of Disney after Little Mermaid and Beauty and the Beast came out.
That too, yeah.
It's like they would just say like, oh, the way to make a successful animated movie is that you have to have a song.
Just infuse songs every 5 minutes.
Just
into the movie.
Put it in whenever, wherever. If it sounds like it would make a good song, just put it in.
Right.
But in reality, it's just like, no, the songs were adding to the story. in which it would kind of like help make some exposition.
Yeah.
And with this, it's just kind of like, let's sing a beautiful song about Paris, or
we have Judy Garland, and we have Robert Goulet,
and they're good singers.
And they're good singers. Let's give them some things to say.
Let's make them sing.
So it's a song about, in a very kind of workaround way, how wonderful Paris is. And Mewsette knows nothing about Paris, but she hears it sounds wonderful.
Yeah, she's very naive about it,
and she wants to go.
And
so as when Jean Tom presents the mouse, she gets offended, and she's like, "I want this and this. I'm a feline." And they're like, "What the heck is a feline?" I think she means female. And then she goes crying, and then Robespierre,
he's like, "Oh, it's a
tells
woman."
Tells her to go piss up a rope.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Why don't you go?" And then she jumps into a carriage and goes off on a train to Paris. Towards Paris. And then Jean Tom finds out, and then they go chasing after her on foot.
Yeah. So we see we see basically it's them on the journey towards Paris.
Yeah.
And it's just the setup is that they're, going after her while she is already there by train, and like almost immediately when she arrives, she is met with, it was like, was he in the car with her?
He must have listened to her sing and been like,
Yeah, because she was singing, and then he was just like, "Hello, little girl. I'm going to take you away with me. I'm not evil at all. I'm
suave Paul Frees cat.
Yeah.
Comes in, and this is after she sings a song, which is a catchy song. This roses red, violets blue. It's a catchy song, but. But of course, as this is going on, you're just panning over beautiful artwork for 2.5-3 minutes.
And speaking of that song, it's like it's not really a French sounding song. It's to me it sounds
it sounds like a Broadway New York-y song.
Well, yeah, the thing that I was telling you is like it kind of reminds me of the Johnny Appleseed song for some reason. The Lord is good to me, and so I thank the Lord. Yeah, we know this song too much.
With prancing cats, I don't know what I'm singing. It has that. A lot of the songs almost are reminiscent of previous Disney songs.
Yeah,
in a way, but
in a way. Quite. And I didn't really. Some songs really feel like these are French songs.
Yeah,
but most of them really don't feel like it. It's you don't really get a sense of France other than visually.
Yeah,
but in terms of sound, it's like, and I've noticed this. Well, all the characters around them are like, one has a New York accent, and the bartender.
Later in the movie, they go to a bar.
Yeah, it's like, hey, what would you like?
What do you like? Oh, you want a champagne?
Hey, you want some champagne?
You want milk, cream, and it's like you're in Paris. And there's a guy talking like he's from the Bronx.
Yeah. I'm sure that was the joke, but they kind of do that quite often
in the movie.
Yeah, and even there's like a dog in there. It's like, your cat's whiskers are tickling my nose. And
it's Mel Blanc doing a very tough dog voice.
Yeah, but it's like, does anyone in Paris speak French?
More people outside of France. No, because. Yeah, there's one other character that's introduced later in the movie who is a human, but you only see him from his hands or his feet.
Yeah.
And he's French.
Yeah.
And
he goes to Alaska to look for gold.
Yeah. but yeah, that's far into the movie. But the train arrives in Paris, and she meets Meowreese, who kind of just woos her into being like, oh,
immediately,
yes. Almost immediately. Well, she's so naive. And she go on, and then he kind of lures her.
Yeah, she has like that sense of like she has absolutely no experience whatsoever.
I'm not a kitten anymore. I could take care of myself. Yes, but a stranger in a strange city.
It's funny. It's like at that point, it to me it felt like this is like Showgirls with cats.
Yeah,
in
a way.
Yeah. It's like the girl in gold boots. And it's like, I have a sister that knows how to dance. So why don't you can talk to my sister?
You really?
Yeah,
but
exactly.
So Meowreese brings Mewsette to
Madame Rubenschat.
Rubenschat.
Yeah, which I don't really even think they say her name out loud.
They don't. They just call her Madame or Mademoiselle.
Well, he introduces her as Meowreese's sister. It's like, hello, dear sister. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. I guess we're just
because they're putting on an act. Because you don't really. And the thing is, in the beginning. Just by looking at him, you're like, oh, this is the bad guy.
Yeah.
He's got an angular... also, first of all, the designs are really Chuck Jones.
Yeah.
Extremely, because Chuck... Well, we'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
But Chuck Jones had a part in this movie. He and his wife co-wrote the entire movie. They wrote the movie.
Yep.
So there's a very heavy Chuck Jones overtone over this entire movie, which we'll talk about later. But...
it's certainly just encapsulates its style,
Yeah.
It's like you even looking at it, knowing what Chuck Jones draws and his style, it's like, oh god, that's Chuck Jones.
Yeah.
It's immediately
even people who don't really know animation too well, even if they don't know who did it, they're like, that's the Bugs Bunny guy or the Roadrunner guy.
Yeah.
Your purr, my dear. It's like a cement mixer.
But that's the way I purred back home on the farm.
Well, it won't do here. It must be refined, yet seductive. Like this. Purr, 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 purr. Now try again and put some throat into it.
Purr, 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 purr.
But
because over the years, it's like he certainly became one of the more well-known artists of Looney Tunes.
Yeah, well, he's probably even in animation in general. He became people think of Walt Disney, Chuck Jones.
Yeah,
people
certainly.
like that.
So yeah, by now it's recognizable, but I guess back then it wasn't this is something we know about.
Yeah.
So,
but I was saying that Meowreese, you see him immediately and it's just Chuck Jones design, but you automatically say, oh, he's bad.
Yeah.
But they don't at all really explain the motives of the character.
They don't give him a motivation. They even give him a song before they can even say what the hell he's doing.
Because you find out that
he just says, "I'm evil."
Yeah. You find out that he's just this conniving, very smooth, but definitely has some motives. You know what they are, and then he drops Mewsette off to be taught by Mademoiselle Rubenschat, and he goes off, and then he sings a song about money.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, so he's doing something for money.
We've got to have money.
Why do we reference that all the time?
Because it sounded like it. I would honestly not, if he did not say money while having that devious smile on the way out of the door.
Almost like you're breathing the word out.
Yeah. Money.
So creepy.
Yeah.
But and then you don't really know what his motive is until even 10 minutes or 15 minutes after that song.
Yeah, exactly.
But
he basically just says oh, I'm evil, and I love money. The money man can.
Yeah, we kept saying the money because it's the money cat can.
The Candyman can.
The Candyman can. Because that's what we kept thinking of. But that sequence.
Yeah.
First of all, it's beautifully done because he goes to the roof.
I like the red.
And
it's
the
red colors,
deep red sky with these dark chimney pots and things. But then we introduce that Meowreese has an army, a small army of these henchman cats that are, I think, in my opinion, are probably one of my favorite things about the movie.
Yeah, and they're just silhouettes with yellow eyes.
They're they look like these black, someone took a pen and drew a cat, but didn't let the ink off, the pen off the paper. So you just get this silhouette of these scrawny, skinny, almost shadowy, evil-looking cats.
And they keep really close, so it always looks like they have 4 heads sometimes.
One shape, yeah. And these designs, I found out Corny Cole, who is a pretty amazing designer and animator. He worked for multiple studios, including Chuck Jones early on and everything. But he designed these cats, and they're my favorite designs in the entire movie. They're probably one of my favorite designs in animation ever.
Yeah,
because they're just.
I agree, because they're very well. It's still a really big important thing about animation is if your character has a good silhouette, it is a good design.
Yeah,
because if you just blot out a character with one color, you should be able to recognize what that character is.
And those cats are just all silhouette. And they have to be clear, and there's some really great animation of them during that money song of just them prancing around and dancing. And
yeah, there's a lot of great animation from them and like doing like all these like smooth moves and just joking.
They must have had a ball with those characters.
Yeah.
Because I mean, imagine just
the song. I mean, the song is like absolutely worthless, but it's like
thinking about
it's just cool seeing the animation.
And just even thinking about drawing them, like and inking the cells, like all you'd have to do is draw lines, just a bunch of scribbles, and then they just ink over it. It's almost like in a way a 30s style character.
Yeah.
Because the character is all black.
Yeah.
It's in silhouette. You have to draw these, but it doesn't matter how they look on the inside of the outline. You just, except for maybe the eyes, or when they smile, they have these big toothy, almost Cheshire cat like grins.
The eyes would help a little bit also because like you have that highlight.
Yeah.
And then when they move their head around, it's like you can still tell when they're moving their heads, and they're just really fun to look at.
Fun designs, but they have this song,
and they have a lot of fun drawing them too because
right.
it's like the things that they do are just like crazy and alcohol. So.
It's really fun. And then so they have this song, and then you kind of find out later that Mewsette is writing letters to some guy named
this happens
Henry.
Henry,
yeah. But you see him write a letter, but he doesn't say anything. He just goes, Henry. His name is and Henry
P-H-H-T.
and somewhere in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Sandbox Road in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and he's doing something relating to Mewsette, but you don't know what.
Yeah, it's like I am preparing her for
something, and you're like, okay, and then I guess they kind of clue you in a little more.
Yeah.
To what he's doing, which is ultimately
because it's like it's like at first it's like I wasn't really sure why she had to meet this person, like this Madame Shat.
Yeah.
It's like why what Shat.
Jat.
Yeah. Yes. Jat. It's been a while since I took a French class. All right.
It's just weird. It's like this. No, it's not even. Sorry.
Yeah. Well,
just keep going.
Anyway,
Let's just keep going.
Yeah. So no, I'm not really certain like what the motivation. Why does Mewsette have to meet up with this woman? What is she doing? And I guess it's
She's
like
making her. I guess he just wants her to be like elegant, like an elegant wife.
I guess so. Yeah.
That makes her seem
it's
more...
sort of like a My Fair Lady situation where it's like, here's the way that you properly purr and now balance this saucer of milk over and like gracefully walk across. It's like
it's like what do they call it? Where it's like a not a reform school, but it's like a a proper like where women etiquette school.
Yeah.
So he's. And then we find out ultimately that he's going to ship Mewsette to the U.S. to this guy who we never see a picture of, but we just assume that he's this
fat, ugly man, disgusting man or cat.
Cat. Sorry,
because
person. Yeah, personality.
And so it's basically like a mail order bride.
Mail order bride service that he's the middleman. He's getting paid by this guy.
Yeah, I'm assuming he's rich. He's fat and he's ugly. And he needs like a bride.
Right.
And so it's like a scheme, like a terrible. Mail order bride system, and at first it's like I thought they would do this is where that they would like she's a very wonderful singer. It's like maybe we should bring her into like the whole musical scene and like have her sing, because there's even hints of that later on where it's like they have posters of Mewsette where maybe she
would have been a star in Paris.
Like the Moulin Rouge or something. Like
a lot of puns.
Yeah, there's a lot of cat puns in this.
Not too many.
Not a lot,
but enough.
But not enough that would like destroy the film. It's just you really notice them and you're like, oh, cat.
Yeah. But while this is all going on, Jean Tom and Robespierre finally make it to Paris. And whenever they get close to Mewsette, they bypass her by just a few seconds or a minute, and they deal with a lot of trouble finding Mewsette in Paris.
They were about to get close, and then one of the black cats like pulled them down into the sewer,
and then they got to find the place again.
Yeah, and so they like float off, and they weren't dealt with later until Mewsette, who is going to mail that letter to Henry. And so
I like saying
he spots him like capturing a mouse, and he's like, "Oh, you are a wonderful mouser. You are a world champion."
And you see above his head that he's thinking and that he's finding out, I guess, the cost of what a cat would make if he sold it.
Yeah.
But who is Mewsette selling this cat to?
Yeah.
A human? But
it's like he's a cat who is like a slave trader.
But how do they get?
I don't know how he gets
get
paid.
Money.
Yeah, I don't know how he gets paid to do this. It's like all of a sudden this weird straggly cat comes up to a guy and says like, "I hear you need a mouse. Here, my friend will be here. Just give me the money."
And another thing too is like
a talking cat.
But yeah, in there's moments where like Mewsette writes a check in money.
Right.
Is there a cat bank where money francs can be cashed?
Well, it suggested that everything that is in France also has a cat version of it. Like,
there's like
we
a
have
door
the
right
Moulin
next to
Rouge.
it.
Well, we find out there's the Moulin Rouge, and then right next to it is a smaller door. It's the Moulin Rouge, and then there was like the etiquette school.
Yeah.
It's like there was that big pink door, and then right next to it, it's like, oh no, that's where we're supposed to go.
Right, and the same with like it's kind of like in Great Mouse Detective where they do the same thing where there's just the human that knows. Hey, do you notice that there's a smaller version of your doorway right next to your neck? Right, there's.
What do you think of that?
And coincidentally, the Sherlock Holmes has a small Sherlock Holmes mouse living coincidentally next to Sherlock Holmes, like stuff like that. But either way, we digress. So he sees Jean Tom catch this mouse, and he invites him to this bar. And they're like, "We want milk. No, we want cream. No, when in Paris, you must have champagne." Mm-hmm. So they drink this beautiful. I mean, even as a kid, when I saw this movie, I wanted to drink that. It looks like cherry 7-Up. Yeah. It just looks really or
there is a thing to say about cartoons and food and drinks and stuff like that. How it's like everything looks more appetizing
because they make it.
Animated.
They design the best parts of the food.
Right.
There's never a burnt, crappy edge to a piece of meat or whatever.
But it is pretty funny.
This is one of our favorite parts.
It starts another song, and I remember this to this day. This was like the most memorable song to me
as a kid. I remember this song.
As like, and they just talk about like, it's Robert Goulet and Red Buttons singing. It's like you can't. Robert Goulet is singing. It's like very well.
He doesn't sing that many songs in the movie.
No,
he only
doesn't.
sings like 2 songs.
No. But while Robert Goulet is singing, you hear Red Buttons going, "Bubbles!
Bubbles!
Bubbles!"
And you said they sound like
it's like a dying dog.
Yeah.
It's like when someone is singing, all of a sudden you hear the dog outside like braying out loud.
And there's always one in the song. It's funny because like you hear like someone going like a chorus going "Bubbles," then you hear someone in the back going "Bubbles! Bubbles! Bubbles!" And we just started laughing. We were like,
we kept on doing it because like, and then we would hear it in the song. It's like, "Bubbles!"
We stopped. We had like water and soda to drink while we were watching the movie, and we're like, I can't drink because I'm going to squirt it all. I'm going to get it on my nose.
Yeah,
bubbles, bubbles. And it does sound like a dying dog, but they're drunkly singing the song.
Right.
And then again, it's another song.
It's another song that keeps going.
It just goes. I mean, yes,
and everything is nice and
it's
stylized.
It's Pink Elephants-esque in the sense that there is time passing. They are drunk, and then they wake up and they find out they have been shanghaied.
Yeah, they're on a boat to Alaska, and of course there's like another drunk guy, a drunk fisherman of some sort.
Oh,
like,
what a headache!
Oh, my head!
Oh no!
Oh, my head! Oh, look at that!
A little turtle!
A little turtle! No, it's a little kitten! Oh, hello! We are going to Alaska! Yeah, and. That is like probably the only other human that we see in this movie. And you start to think, it's like, did Mewsette drug this fisherman as well?
No, I think it was just coincidental. Just like everything else in this movie. Just while they...
But how did he make money off of it?
He didn't. He was Shanghai.
Right. So it's like...
That's true.
Yeah, he didn't make any money.
Oh, I guess they were Shanghai to work on the ship. Right. Then when they got to Alaska, they were on their own, I guess. And they went because there's the Alaskan gold rush of the.
Yes, because they were found on that ship like in a bag. So I don't know. I mean,
not a lot of things are explained.
In the sense of the story. I guess it makes sense, but honestly, it's like it was just a way to get rid of Jean Tom and Robespierre while. Mewsette does whatever he needs to do with Mewsette.
So while they're off being shanghaied and being sent as far away from Paris as possible. Mm-hmm. You cut back to Mewsette, and he's writing a letter to Henry And
this is probably one of you were saying like it's one of your favorite.
It's one of my
scenes.
favorite parts. I mean, the besides the cats and the bubbles song is this sequence that Maurice is writing to Henry, and I just love saying any chance I can get.
It's a funny name.
It's a funny name. I mean, yeah. But he writes a letter saying, I've had portraits painted of Mewsette.
Yes.
By these painters.
By these famous painters.
How much money he spent to get these paintings, I do not know.
Yeah, maybe like all the money that he did selling John Tom off, I guess.
Maybe.
But at the same time, it's like, he is spending a lot of money to sell Mewsette for like marriage.
Yeah.
And money is like absolutely no issue in this movie, but it seems to be the motivation of
at least Maurice.
Maurice, yeah.
And so we find out that he starts showing off. Oh, we have many paintings by many of the up and coming painters of France, of Paris, and then you see these
Monet, Lautrec, Seurat,
Degas,
Rosette, Modigliani,
Toulouse-Lautrec,
Van Gogh, Degas, Renoir, Cézanne, Gauguin, Picasso. Yeah, we got all the greats here.
All the great painters of that time period.
But it's done by the UPA artists, and it's very well emulated. It's like they were all like paintings done of this of Mewsette.
But they're in the style of the painter, and they're really well done.
And throughout the entire time, it's narrated by Paul Frees. And throughout the entire time, I'm thinking, it's like, this is kind of like one of those Walt Disney educational films.
Because Paul Frees did those.
Yeah, he did.
So, like, I remember, if anyone remembers things like Donald and Mathmagic Land or any of the space shows that they did in the 50s.
So this is almost all of a sudden it turns into an educational film where we're like looking at all the paintings of famous.
A rugged Spaniard named Pablo Picasso paints with a very cubic graphic style.
Yeah, and it's all scary.
And to me, I think in a way, this movie was an introduction to those painters to me.
Yeah.
Because I probably was aware of those. I mean, I knew afterwards what Monet looked like compared to a Van Gogh, compared to a Toulouse-Lautrec, just because of remembering how they painted the Mewsette in that movie. And when you have a frame of reference of everyone's trying to paint this one image of Mewsette, then you could see that, how Pablo Picasso would have painted Mewsette, how Monet would have painted Mewsette. So it's kind of a nice lesson.
If I was an art history teacher, I would love to take this scene and show my class.
Yeah.
Because it's a great way to visually see the kind of style and look that these painters have portrayed in the eyes of the artists that have admired these paintings.
Yeah.
Because in a way, it's like it's taking the idea of what they've done and applying it to what something else, like a cartoon or something like that. And that's a good way to learn about these painters.
Yeah.
So, I honestly could say it's like I've taken so many art history classes. I probably learned more from this film than any of those classes combined.
At least it was more interesting.
Yeah, exactly.
But in the grand scheme of it, now looking at it in that context, it's one thing. But then in the context of the movie, the scene is completely pointless.
It's pointless.
There's no reason. It's a nice little addition.
It is.
And it pads out the movie, which...
Yeah,
but the thing is, you can tell that this sequence,
it
along with the song sequences in this movie, were just moments where it's like, let's showcase what we can do.
Because without the songs, this movie would probably be like about
45 minutes.
Yeah, half an hour to 45 minutes probably.
A lot of songs.
Yeah.
But it's this movie, you could tell throughout this entire movie that it is UPA in a way flaunting what they're capable of doing, which is cool, but also like...
Well, we started to think about that, and we were talking to each other about this, how it's like, this movie would not really fly with a general audience because while it is very beautiful and everything, the story is very slow. Having a kid and watching this, the kid would probably just look around at something
else.
Go to the bathroom. They wouldn't really. Yeah, once a song would come up, they would say like, "Oh, can I go out and play with my toys? Because that's more interesting."
Because that's true. Like I remember watching this movie when I was younger on Cartoon Network and being like, oh,
it's good to have in the background. But, but that's the problem with it, is that it's a very visual movie.
Yeah, we said that this movie is a great, like, because there are some movies that we've seen that we consider animation extravaganzas, like they're an animator's movie or a music lover's movie.
Yeah.
But then but that doesn't mean it's really this movie is a painter's movie.
This movie is an illustrator's movie.
Yeah,
like it really shows that it has a very nice illustrator influence to it, and it's like there's a lot of great artists from UPA that have worked on this.
Yeah,
and it really shows. It's like they really have a good sense of shapes, stylizations, and just working with. And they wanted to portray that in animation somehow.
And as progressive as Disney was in many ways, Disney would never really dare to do something as... I mean, they did it into a sense in, like, 101 Dalmatians the year before.
Yeah.
But it's not nearly as extreme as how they did it in this movie.
Yeah, this is, like, basically just really... all the details have just kind of, like, disappeared, you know? It's just like, let's just work in shapes. And let's just really, like... make brush strokes and just leave it at that.
It's an art movie.
Yeah, it's a very, very artistic movie.
Yeah.
And you get that sense, like, really not that deep into it, like almost immediately, because you look at everything and it's just like, oh, this is so pretty. I really don't care about the story that much.
Yeah, we're getting ahead of ourselves again. But
really, no, that's a great scene. If anything, it's like I would really suggest.
And that scene, I think, is just by itself on YouTube, because people have said, "Hey, this is cool." So if you go on YouTube and check out the whole movie. I'd say, but that sequence in particular is probably one of the standout moments of this movie.
Yeah.
Champagne, garçon. Champagne for the greatest mouse catcher in all France and his manager. Oui, monsieur. One bottle of champagne hot off the ice.
And then, so after that...
we get the scene where Mewsette is now a proper lady, where she's like really pretty, and she has a blonde wig.
They put a wig on her.
They put a wig on a cat, and that looks weird. I mean, it's just visually it looks weird, but at the same time, it's like, oh, it's supposed to make her look like beautiful and elegant and everything. It's like, I don't know if it really fits. She looked like, for a cat,
yeah,
she was already really sexy looking. So
very pretty looking cat already.
So then it gets to the point where it's like, okay, here's your check for your abilities, and then they walk off, and then you notice Madame looks at the check, and she's like, I'm going to miss that girl, but this money is really wonderful. And then she notices, that tricky bastard.
If only she did say that.
He signed it with invisible ink. And or disappearing ink.
Yeah.
It disappears. It's like it's the cartoon gag, the disappearing ink. And then she looks straight to the camera and is like, if I ever got an opportunity to give that guy what for, I would take it. And then the scene ends, and it's like,
okay,
all right,
we'll keep that in mind.
I don't
know what we're gonna do about it.
It's like, well, what do you want us to do about that, lady?
Yeah, but so, and then Meowreese brings Mewsette to his hideout.
Yeah,
and reveals, which is really stupid of him. He reveals what his plans were for Mewsette the whole time, and she goes, "No, I won't get in the basket to be sent to...
Get in the box.
Get in the box.
Get in the box. No, I won't get in the box. Get in the box. Get in the box. Yeah."
But it pretty much is that. Yeah. But it's like, you know what? Maybe he should have just tricked her into being like, "Oh, there is something for you. There's a present inside that basket."
Yeah, but I guess it would have, like, because...
the movie would have ended, right?
Well, Jean Tom and Robespierre are, like... across the seas,
on the complete other side of the globe.
And they're in Alaska, and I guess they're looking for gold, and it's like, perhaps we won't find any gold. Let us
join the Foreign Legion.
Join the Foreign Legion, yeah. And then he finds a snow mouse.
Like a polar mouse. It's a white mouse. And
I'm getting ahead of myself. Basically, it's supposed to be like the time has really passed, and they're like looking for Mewsette, who's like lost.
She escaped.
She escaped. She's in Paris.
6 weeks. They say
6 weeks. Yeah,
so she's been running around hiding.
Yeah, for 6
weeks.
Weeks.
And she looks still pretty good.
Yeah, she's kind of scraggly throughout the entire.
She's not dirty though.
No,
she's pure white. She keeps herself very clean.
Yeah, there probably could have been another thing where it's like all of a sudden she's all dirty now and like, but that would be a longer movie. That would have been probably more of a. Like an epic.
But that would have been a great character moment of having her be. She's been hiding like a criminal, like in the streets and in the gutters and in the sewer. And she was if she was dirty and she wanted to be in Paris where everyone's happy and she's clean and she's beautiful. And now she's at the lowest ebb.
Yeah,
they have the lowest. She is at her lowest ebb in this movie.
Yeah,
but they don't really. They could have. I think they could have had a moment where they could have done that, but they didn't do it.
Yeah, thinking about it, that's probably what is implied, but at the same time, it's like it could have been portrayed a little bit better.
Yeah.
And there's that whole song with her where
which
it's
again,
like she aggressive, which sounds like a very New York Broadway type song, like
really,
jazzy song, like like.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
New York.
But
Paris.
It's a very beautiful song. It does just nice background. It's cool. Yeah. Beautiful stuff again. And then
the river cracks.
And we're like, whoa, I guess it's wintertime.
Yeah, it's wintertime.
But she gets captured eventually by Maurice and his henchmen. And while this is going on, Jean Tom and Robespierre, while he hunts this polar mouse, just somehow digs under the snow and finds gold. So they become
like immediately.
The cats get rich.
Cats get rich. There's like newspapers like rich cats.
Really?
Yeah, like
the cats did it, huh?
Yeah.
And they come back to Paris with money, I guess. But there's no way for them to really have the money unless they have a cat bank account. I don't know. Again,
there's cat checks.
So apparently.
So whatever.
But so they come back just in time to find Mewsette. They find.
They find Madame
Rubinjat.
Yeah,
they find her and say, "Oh, they head for the train," and they eventually catch up to Maurice. And
I really like that part where it's like they talk to Madame and she's like, "And when you find Maurice,
send him my love."
And then turn him inside out.
And it's like, where's Mewsette? Oh, she's over there. It's like, oh, hi, who are you? It's not that moment. Just immediately like, oh, I guess you're with her. And then, they sneak her away. And then they get on the train, and you think it's going to be, they've made the train, and Jean Tom and Robespierre missed the train. But he imagines Maurice as a rat.
Yeah.
And he goes into Mouser mode and just flies right to the, and then there's
like a rocket.
And there's some great slapstick fighting moments in it, and
that's pretty fun. That entire scene where they're fighting together is like it's pretty funny.
Yeah,
and there's a lot of like really like very Chuck Jones expressions and humor, where like they're getting punched and smashed, and thrown around, and that's a pretty fun
stuff that he would reuse later and when he did after this because he. Well, later on, he did those Tom and Jerry. And he did a lot of the things, like the whole thing where they with the door smashing. I'm going, aha!
Yeah. You're right.
And then him getting punched in the face. That's all stuff he did before. Yeah. But there's a huge fight, and they get Mewsette out, and they beat up Maurice, and they're about to kick him off the train, but they have an idea of putting him in the box and dressing him up like a lady.
Oh, let's talk about like the very like. Vicious looking drawings of Maurice before they're about to fight, where it's like, it's like, Jesus, it's like Christ. All of a sudden it's like, and then they have like this big silhouette fight, which is probably the most animated thing in this movie.
Yeah, I mean it's all beautiful straight ahead.
Yeah,
animation in this movie.
Yeah, so and then they have their fight, and Maurice is defeated. And they put him into that box that Mewsette was in to this fit guy. Yeah.
That's how you pronounce it. Yeah.
It's like learning a new language.
Yeah.
And they put him in this. They put him in the box. And it's really funny because it's
they curl his hair up.
They just curl his hair up, and he has this one beat up expression.
It's one drawing pretty much. And they're just like, now you.
It's hilarious. And then they close the door, and it's like, it's hilarious. But then it's like, Robespierre is just like, I'm dying. It's just, that ruined it.
Yeah, it's not that funny, Robespierre.
Yeah, and it goes right to them, and we need to get a screen grab of that where it's just like they're just looking at him like. Anyway, Mewsette, hi, how's it going?
Yeah, and so anyway, they're on this train to the boat, and I guess they have to take the train all the way back to Paris.
Right.
But either way, they get back and they live.
And they're still in Paris.
And they're still in Paris. They decide not to go back.
Yeah, she didn't really learn anything, I guess. Like, I guess she just learned that she loves Jean Tom more.
And they don't say they're going to go back to the small town.
No. A province.
Yes. But they are living the high life now in Paris. And
they're rich and
riding a carriage.
And
then that's the end of the movie.
And they're in love, and yeah, that's it.
And then we were like, where did the time go?
Yeah.
So we have a little story about this movie in the sense that, we mentioned before that Chuck Jones was involved in this movie. He wrote the movie with his wife, Dorothy.
Yeah. Which was a surprise when I saw that name on the beginning credits. I was like, oh, he did it with his wife.
Dorothy and Chuck Jones wrote the movie. And then what happened was, while this was going on, of course, in most studios, at least at the time, some of it today, there is a exclusivity or a non-compete clause in contracts and things. So Chuck Jones, of course, at the time was working at Warner Brothers, making Coyote cartoons and Bugs Bunny cartoons in the late 50s, early 60s. But Warner Brothers was already winding down. They weren't really doing much at the time. No. So he kind of ghost-directed, worked on this movie while he was technically under contract at Warner's. So when Warner's, because UPA made the movie, but they needed a distributor, and Warner's were saying, we'll distribute this movie. and they look at the movie.
Like, uh-oh.
Yeah. And then they look at the movie, and they're like, wait a minute. Chuck, were you on this? What were you doing?
Yeah, you kind of have to think about what that conversation was.
Right. I could just imagine.
It's like, Mr. Jones, I know that we have a contract, an exclusivity contract together. However, we have seen your name on this movie at UPA, and what's up with that?
Chuck, what the fuck, man? Yes. What's your deal? Like, I just can't imagine how that went down. Like, but either way, it led to Chuck Jones being fired, having his contract terminated, and Chuck later went on to at MGM. He set up his own production company, hired all of his animators from Warner's, and they went over and they later made the Tom and Jerry cartoons that he did. How the Grinch Stole Christmas.
Yeah, so he basically did pretty well.
Things worked out after this movie.
He was fine.
But it's a funny little story.
It is. It's just like, it's one of those things where you just think like, but I guess that happens, you know?
And another thing I want to bring up is that I'm surprised we didn't talk about it earlier, is that there is a lot of connection between this movie and about 10 years later.
Oh, that's right.
When Disney releases a similar movie about cats in Paris. And the main cat is a white cat with blue eyes. And the other cat is a kind of a tabby. Mm-hmm. And he's a tough from the streets.
That's true. And there's like a Robespierre little... No,
there's three little Robespierres. Very annoying.
Well, I mean... Given the similarities, there's still two completely different movies.
They are, but it's just coincidence that it's a French cat movie in Paris with kidnapping involved, but it's a very different movie. But it's kind of strange that almost 10 years before Aristocats, there's this gay Purr-ee, which more people know about Aristocats because it's Disney than this small UPA movie. Yeah. And after this was UPA's last feature film.
Was it their complete thing at all?
No, they still did a couple little things after, if I recall. But later on, they didn't really.
But it's not like their last hurrah, like Filmation's, like
I don't think it's really their last hurrah. I would have to look it up. I wish I did some more research before we recorded today. But I mean, later on, they became a distributor for more they distributed all the Godzilla movies here in the States through Toho.
Oh yeah, that's right.
But either way, this was a very interesting. Like again, it's a very interesting movie in an artistic sense.
Yeah, I honestly. I mean, for any artist, I would recommend this movie. But to anyone who is like curious about a movie with story or anything, I really would not suggest this to anyone, because it's like very, very slow paced, very and it's not so much dull. It's just that everything,
it drags a bit.
It drags on, and the story isn't really that strong to make you want to pay attention to it, even with all these songs around
and
it.
Fun designs and fun, and in a sense, fun characters, but they're not like even a character as interesting as Maurice or Jean Tom.
Yeah,
they're not that engaging. You don't really like have to be like, oh man, I worry that Jean Tom is going to not find Mewsette.
Right.
Or I mean, God forbid Robespierre. I mean, he can go.
He can go himself.
Jesus.
Yeah,
but it's still it's an interesting movie. I think it's worth warranting a watch. Because there are things of merit you can take from. I mean, from an art direction wise, gorgeous.
Yeah.
From a design sense, gorgeous. The animation is limited.
Yeah.
Which is UPA was known for limited animation.
It's limited, but there are very nice parts to it.
And these are people who worked at Disney, worked under Chuck on his cartoons for 10 or 15 years.
And we couldn't find a budget for this movie.
We didn't know even how well it did.
But you have to think that it was probably not a whole lot of money that was went into this movie. You know,
I can't imagine.
It was. I honestly think that this movie was kind of like a passion for the arts. You know, it's just like, you know, we really love to do this. We love to paint. Let's just do this. Let's just have some fun with it. And you know,
here's what's going to happen. After this records, I'm going to go home. I'm going to do more research.
Yeah.
And I'll be like, oh, shit, they probably spent a shit ton of money on this movie.
Either way, this is all assumptions. But at the same time, it's like, well, if we find anything really significant of note, we'll probably do a follow-up.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, for as my recommendation is just like, you know, if you really like, if you are an illustrator and you really like to look at very pretty designs and compositions and shapes and stuff like that, this is a really good movie to work off of, because it has like a lot of that really nice visual appeal to it that just like a lot of movies don't really involve themselves in, because, you know, why should they? It's like they're trying to go to a more general audience. The visual thing is like the second thing. It's mostly the story that they're focused on.
But the thing you have to be careful though with in terms of, because we know because we've worked in animation production before. There are times where if you start looking, like in this case of this movie, if there are moments where you're looking at the background more than you're looking at the characters in front of them, that's a problem, because that means you're not engaged. You're engaged by the art. You're like, oh wow, look at that background.
Yeah.
But then there's moments. Well, luckily in this movie, the backgrounds are so detailed, but the characters are so simple that they do stand out and they pop out, and you really can't. Your eyes do focus on them.
Once the characters are there, it's like you can really pay attention to them.
Right. But yeah, normally if you look at even a movie like Sleeping Beauty, there's times where I'd rather be looking at the background.
Yeah.
At times, because it's so detailed.
And that has some very beautiful backgrounds as well.
It's gorgeous.
Like very, very nicely. Probably one of the most shapely layouts of, you know.
It's funny because I would say in that particular time period, from between like 1955 through 1965, in terms of art direction, throughout all studios, pretty amazing layout and stuff. Because you get Disney doing things like, they go from something like Lady and the Tramp, super realistic, almost Rockwell-esque, to Sleeping Beauty, which is very much like a tapestry.
Yeah.
And then right after that, you go to 101 Dalmatians, which is such a minimalistic graphic, almost like a 50s
Sketchy.
magazine illustration. And then while this is going on, you have a movie like Purr-ee. You have UPA doing their movies. Even the beginning age, at this time, the Hanna-Barbera with their designs and their backgrounds, the Flintstone backgrounds.
They're very minimalist too,
right.
as well.
But I think they're beautiful. They kind of stand on their own. And there's definitely a I don't even want to say a golden age. I think it would be too forward. But in terms of art direction and background design, amazing. Just in that time period alone, just a lot of experimentation. It's a beautiful backgrounds on all those movies and shows.
Yeah.
But that's really much all we can really say about this movie.
And with that, I would like to go back to our original ending discussion: the best and the worst.
I forgot about that.
So, Michael, what would you say is the worst thing about this movie?
But yeah, I mean, I'm not a huge fan of Robespierre, but he doesn't bother me as much as The Boy and Jungle Book 2. But I would say the worst thing I would say about this movie, the character, whatever. He's a necessary character in the movie. Mm-hmm. It's really just those moments where you're like, as beautiful as they are, can we just move on? Can we move on? I mean, these backgrounds are beautiful, the songs are beautiful, but I'm distracted. I'd rather be looking at my feet or at my watch, which is such a shame because you want to be engaged to the point where you're like, oh, look at these beautiful fish, look at these bubbles, like look at all this stuff. But then you're just sort of like, why? It's not engaging, which to me I think is the worst part of the movie. The
worst part for me is basically the characters aren't very compelling. It's like you don't root for them. You don't really feel for Mewsette. Honestly, it's like you are asked to really feel for her and her situation, but she's kind of like naively went into this situation, kind of like acted like a little, it's just very, very, why is she doing this? Why, and I guess it's one of those situations where it's just like, I really don't care what happens to the characters, but that's more of a story and character development problem with me. Yeah. And that is the worst thing about it. However, what is the best part of this movie to you?
Well, before I said that the designs, the corny coal designs for those henchman cats, and just the styling of that sequence on the rooftop, beautiful. I mean, I think I can't say anything about I can't not say how beautiful this movie is as a whole. And I would say probably the best thing about this movie is, again, the overall art direction of this movie. Yeah. It's beautiful, but personally, it's the design of those cats. Yeah. And just not because of it itself, but just us laughing about Bubbles. Bubbles! Bubbles!
Every time I just think of like a basset hound, like howling. Bubbles! God. Yeah, that's... And what
about you?
The best thing for me is that scene with the painting where they're talking about the famous painters.
Yes, I do like that scene
because that just for me is the most interesting part. It reminds me a lot about those Disney shorts where they would just talk about educational things, and it would be narrated by Paul Frees, and it was almost like exactly like it,
Because in a way, it almost seemed like his French accent dipped away, so it was just his straight voice.
So he was just narrating, It's like, but even then, Paul Frees sometimes will like do an accent or something when he's talking. But great. Yeah, he's an amazing voice actor. I don't think compared to Mel Blanc, I don't think he gets as enough credit. Yeah. As Mel Blanc.
To me, he's almost it's not really...
There's a lot of really great voice actors from that era, but Paul Frees is definitely one of the greats.
It would be an unfair comparison, but in my mind, he is almost Disney's equivalent.
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah, because between a character such as Ludwig von Drake, which is such a unique, fun voice. Yeah. But I mean, and again, he wasn't just doing stuff for Disney. I mean, he was, of course, Boris and Rocky and Bullwinkle. Yep. He was the voice of the Alka. I think he was the voice of... No, he wasn't the voice of the Alka-Seltzer.
I don't think that was him.
No, but he did a lot of voices for advertising.
Yeah, he was very... But yeah, no... honestly, that's all we can really say about the movie, and thank you so much. I really appreciate the listeners giving off their suggestions. I know there's a lot of people who suggest certain movies, and we'd like to get to them all at some point. Yeah, but
the list is growing.
Yeah, the list is really growing. And if you really do want to talk about this movie in particular, once it's posted, you can go to our Facebook page, which is facebook.com/animatedanarchycast. And that's probably the best place to contact us.
Yeah.
If you want to suggest something or have us talk about it or ask us a question, because that would help us on our mini episodes as well.
And we love answering questions.
Yeah, we really do, and it's a lot of fun hearing about what you'd like to hear about us and what we think about certain things, and things can grow in our podcast as well. Who knows, and we just really appreciate it, and we really would like it if you would subscribe to us on iTunes and Stitcher and give us a good review, because that really helps spread the word about the podcast, and that's probably the most helpful thing, and also talking about us on Twitter and directing other folks who are maybe interested in animation and animation discussion, and you just want to suggest it, and someone listens to us, and we got another listener. So all in all, that was our discussion about gay Purr-ee.
You got it.
Yay.
Good job.
Right. Almost. Yay.
Yay, you did it.
Yeah. And we haven't really thought about what our next movie is, but it is going to be something of our choice, and then afterwards we'll do another listener's choice as well. So keep suggesting movies to us. I mean, I know that there's a lot of them that I haven't really heard of, and I think it should unleash on us both, whether they're good or bad, who knows.
Please be good.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but we really love talking about anything that is new to us.
Yeah.
So if you can find something that we haven't heard of, and then we watch it and then we discuss it afterward, I mean, that's just a plus.
Yeah.
So thank you so much, Mike. Again, you can be found on Twitter.
Yep, at A Guy Who Draws.
And I can be found at AWD Twit. And again, please like and go to Facebook and like us, Animated Anarchy Cast, and follow us on iTunes and everything. And this has been another Animated Anarchy podcast. We thank you for listening, and we will see you next time.
See you around.
Bye. Is that like an alien nearby or something? It sounds like something's like creeping up on me, and it's gonna like.
I tried. You know what's funny? This morning, I was trying to do the Horvitz honk.
The what?
You never heard of the Horvitz honk?
No.
Well, Richard Horvitz does this thing where he does this weird sound with his throat, and like he did it a lot in Angry Beavers, and I tried doing it this morning because I thought I could do it. It takes a lot out of you.
Huh.
He does this like.
Oh, right. Well, yeah.
Wait.
I mean, like that's.
But he can make like a sound while he does it.
Oh my god.
Like he goes. Wait,
Jesus.
Hold on. I think I can do it. Hold on. Wait.
Jeez.
Shit. See what I mean?
Don't pass out.
I was
man.
like,
You need some water.
I was in the shower this morning, and I'm just like.
And let me guess, 2 hours later you woke up.
I was at the bottom of the tub.
With water still like spraying on you. Jesus. Okay, alright, you're starting to make me hurt. Like my throat's starting to hurt.
Shit.